one of the highest marks. Secondly, what happens is most of the candidates actually consider history as something कि कर लेंगे, मतलब लिख लेंगे, एनसीएम पे ही तो क्वेश्चन आता है, सोशल रिवॉल्ट ही तो पूछता है, वो क्या पूछेगा, वो सोशल रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स पूछेगा, वो एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज पूछेगा. People do consider that we will be able to manage those things there itself. However, what happens that this doesn't happen in majority of the cases, and you end up writing answers which lack details, which lack something which has gravitas, and they often miss out on the key facts which are often necessary for history answer to be complete. Our focus here is developing those facts and preparing on presentation aspect for it. So like, let me share my screen and talk about how we would be going forward about with it. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Nikhil, can you please confirm?
हाँ, विजिबल है.
Yes. So, like I have talked about, what matters the most here is the details. As most of us know, what is the basic demand of the question. So, there was this question on what are the factors which led to the August offer, or what are factors before the onset of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So, we often know what factors are, what content is to be written, but however, at the time of mains, and while writing answer in the 7 to 8 minutes, we often miss out on details. Those basic details which are often are events. Those details are publications. Those details are personalities. So if let's say there is a question on NCM, which is a very probable question and which is a very simple question. Everyone who knows would be able to write question on NCM. That is non-cooperation movement. But if I tell you where does Salt March happened in the Odisha? Who was the pioneer of it? Who led the Dharsana revolt? So such kind of things need a background preparation, background detailed preparation, and this should be done via crisp and short notes. So you would only be able to know that what sort of details are to be needed in your notes. Later, Naman will also exhibit how it should be done and what sort of details he also incorporated smartly in his notes to ensure that like larger part of syllabus is actually compressed in very short notes and very revisable, reproducible kind of notes. So the details not only includes the events, publications, personalities, but they also include policies and initiatives. So I will exhibit how, what kind of policies I am meant, what kind of initiatives I am talking about. Thirdly, most importantly, what is of significance here is presentation. More often than not, people write first and second question and third question of GS1 paper or the entire mains marathon of that of history. And so they are a bit nervous, they don't know what to write, they sometimes the nerves are a bit heightened, and then you end up compromising on presentation in majority of the aspect. Secondly, people often do not pay much of a heed to what sort of presentation that need to be incorporated in history questions. So have any one of you thought of incorporating a map in IBC wala question, which is a very good value addition and presentation? You can yourself visualize that if there is a question on Indus Valley civilization and you talk and you see a map of it, then won't you award half a mark extra yourself? Similarly, there should be timelines. So if let's say there was this question on tribal revolts. So tribal revolts wale question mein you can draw a timeline, you can draw a map as well about where actually the tribal revolts took place and what was the reason behind it, some names, some personalities associated with them. So this presentation and these details need to be consciously developed. This conscious focus is about development of content. I don't know how many of you have the history notes prepared you, but history notes often tend to be bulky and we tend to incorporate each and every detail that we know in the notes. However, history is not that thing because most of us know demand, it is a very comprehensively prepared area by most of us in prelims itself. So we have a certain basic knowledge, certain basic understanding of it, but the missing out on presentation on details is what would be our focus while developing this content. Moving forward, the first set of topic which the uh, mains focuses on is the events around 18th century, and you can see from the pot itself that they do talk about India at the onset of British rule as a matter of theme. So it can come around in various ways. Two of the ways are actually asked in 2022 and 2017. In both the cases, they talked about, in first case, they talked about the political fragmented polity, and in another case, they talked about why British were victorious. Don't you think both of the topic are interlinked and content from here can be utilized here itself? Also, India at the onset of British can also be the answer, or the content can also be revolved around why British conquest happened. So British conquest happens because India at the onset of British rule was driven by, there was fragmented polity, there were societal issues, then what kind of economic situation was there, then how internal tussle was there, how there was religious superstitionism, all those factors were present. In addition to that, there was this Mughal decline. In addition to that, there was this weak rulers. In addition to that, there was frequent infighting between the rules, different rules. So, why British conquest took place has a background in India at the onset of British rule. Similarly, fractured landscape of 18th century and why British conquest happened also are interlinked. Thirdly, why did socio-economic reforms took place is also why, because the India at the onset of British rule lacked certain of the key features, lack certain of there were certain actually hindrances in what, in the development of civilization. That's why the social religious reforms were called as renaissance for India. So if you have a short note prepared on these topics along these lines, you would be easily able to handle any question which is related to why British conquest happens, what was India's condition at the onset of British conquest, what were the limitations within the Indian society, Indian socio-economico political spectrum, which actually led to colonization of India. So such one and a half pager is pretty essential, and I have given you a brief blueprint on what it should be thought of and how certain details are to be made. The direct interlinkages to it is why British victory actually took place. So British victory took place majorly because there were internal factors. So internal factors were what we already have discussed in the above segment, whereby there were certain internal limitations in the Indian socio-economical political regime which led to such thing. However, there were policies of British Raj also which gave advantage to British Raj vis-a-vis other colonial powers, vis-a-vis French, vis-a-vis Portuguese. So these what were these factors? What were these policies? You need to have a short listing of them. So what can be the short listing of it? Like what was the company structure? How they used debt market? How was their army organization, etc., etc. So you know such points are there, you know such point exist, but also having them consolidated in just few lines would ensure that you have a crisp, quality and readily cross utilizable content available with you. At the same time, British victory took place majorly because of the policies which they actually promulgated themselves. Firstly, that was the land revenue policy. So here itself, you can develop a table about how Ijradari of Hastings, how the Monroe of the Jahagirdari of there was this um, other governor generals, then how there was permanent settlement, how there was this Mahalwari. So each of there is a very little chance that a question, independent question on these would be there, but there is a good chance that you can draw a value addition table for them as well. One second, please. Yes, now it's working. Similarly, the army and the arms, the superiority of army and the arms. So even this question, this content can be readily utilized in this question also. Why EIC win consistently against better equipped Indian armies? Because they had superiority of armies, superiority of organization, but the factors themselves are not limited to army, but there were other factors as well in terms of communication, in terms of railways, in terms of ideology, in terms of policies, in terms of economic policies. So if you can prepare content, if you know what sort of skeleton I am giving you can be utilized in answers across these topics, you would be writing an excellent answer anywhere. And also, such readily utilizable points can also be a backbone for answering other questions as well. One second. And after that, now next set of topic would be of the national movement. Since we know how what were the factors that were at the onset of the 18th century. I think the page is not loading here, but there was this another topic which is uh, governor generals. So since India at the onset of 18th century also includes that there were British policies, and in addition to British policies, what was the impact of such a colonial rule? I'll share this. I think there is some technical issue related to this, and it needed to be sorted out. Please give me a
PDF शेयर कर देंगे PDF वाली.
yes. So in terms of impact of the colonial rule, there was two prominent set of questions. One is handicraft ruin and traditional artisan livelihood loss. So this is the economic impact and the socio-economic impact of British rule is a very probable theme, very probable area which can be used, which can be highlighted in every other question. Let's say, uh, why? What is drain of wealth? What was the impact of colonial rule? Why? Which British policies of colonial India led to impoverishment of peasants? So in every other case the impact aspects need to be like prepared very well, and you can use this content in questions around moderates, in questions around why there was a run up to. Hello.
इसमें आई विल ऐड इसमें ब्रिटिश रूल के दो चीजें पूछते हैं. एक तो नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट तो हम सब जानते ही हैं. वी ऑल नो द नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ
Yes, and
इकोनॉमिक.
then there are certain positive impacts as well.
Two
So
questions have been asked in past. One was the relevance of Government of India Act 1935 in the making of Constitution in 2015. And the second question they asked this time, the relevance of civil services as a combination of professionalism and nationalistic consciousness. So they can ask other things also. For example, in the economic, in the education field also, the major impact was the development of the mindset, of the positive mindset, of the progressive mindset that led to the birth of nationalism and forwardly this thinking of rationality, liberty, and etc. So they can ask this positive relevance also. They have asked in the past. The negative relevance is very obvious. Every All of us prepare in terms of economic policies. Economic policies, Nikhil told you that they generally
Yes,
ask
and also positive impact are needed to be added, which not only include the introduction of the cash crops, but there was rule of law, there was codification of laws, then a structured civil service, police service was introduced. There was railways. I mean, you can have critique on the both sides that railways were there for the perpetuation of colonial Raj and which led to impoverishment of the people. But being said that at the same time, the positives were also there. And fourth set of topic would be of the Governor General. So they have already asked Curzon, they have already asked Dalhousie. The two probable include one is Ripon and another would be of the Lytton. And third would be there is a possibility of Bentinck since tremendous amount of social reforms actually took place in the era of Bentinck. So you need to prepare these three. And when I'm talking about how to prepare them, there should be very short, 3-4 word note for everyone. So if let's say there is a ribbon, so you should know only 5 to 6 points for it. Which are they? Like in Ripon, the rendition of Mysore happened. In Ripon, the 1882 decentralization took place. He also is known for 1881 Factories Act. He is also known for what else? What else? Dishan canning is, I think, a far fetched maybe, but considering that, I mean, every governor general in itself is important, but there should be some like reward to
I'll add
effort ratio as well.
I'll add here. What I have observed is in with respect to governor generals, they are asking those governor general which who led the very strong foundation or who changed
Yes,
the landscape
exactly.
ap- completely. For example, Curzon completely changed the landscape of nationalist movement.
Yes,
Similarly, Dalhousie. Similarly, they asked in the past Dalhousie and two they have asked not along with Dalhousie. One more second was
cousin.
Curzon ना and Dalhousie. Now you can think of any other गवर्नर जनरल जिसने बहुत ही ट्रेमेंडस इम्पैक्ट क्रिएट किया है, बहुत ट्रेमेंडस. अब उसके नोट्स आप कैसे बनाओगे? हाउ विल यू मेक द नोट्स ऑफ दीज थिंग्स? इफ यू आर गुड विद प्रीलिम्स नॉलेज, then no need to write every pointer of these in the notes, है ना? You just have to mention the keywords. For example, when I wrote the notes on Curzon, I made them in the single line. I wrote the Curzon is equal to those 7-8 points from the spectrum. I collated from different pages. I just wrote, for example, Bengal. I do not need to write partition of Bengal 1905. I know and I understand that what do I mean by Bengal. Similarly, the other points of Curzon, है ना? That Press Act, University Act, ठीक है? अब in that also I will not write University Act 1904. I will only write 1904 because that is the crucial information that I will that is a higher probability that I'll forget. I'll write that information in the notes, uh, which I either forget or I need to link it with the other part so that I can collect other information related to that portion. I'll come to the notes making part, but with respect to Governor General personality of the Britishers, है ना, from the British officials, they asked those personality which have brought the tremendous or they
Exactly,
changed the
exactly.
complete
So
social
like
landscape.
there can be a list of it, but Bentic from the perspective because he is important for the social reforms that he
Hmm.
brought, like abolition of sati, suppression of thuggy itself was brought by it, and Ripon mainly because he is very looked in terms of positive sense across the notion of the historians that talk about it. So these two I feel like are very probable. And that we have completed the colonial Raj and the policies and the impact of it, now there's a very probable next area which is of the national movement and what actually happened there. So in national movement, the first and foremost question would be of the moderates. So they have asked this two times, and in both the times the question was around the moderates. And so here, rather than asking about like who were they, what they did, they do ask about the ideological contribution of them. And what I feel is across the theme, across the history paper, they ask the ideology that differentiated them, and which is like ideology that differentiated them, which is like what they stood for, what was the basis behind them working towards it, and what kind of principle, what kinds of moral standards, what kind of ideas they brought into the national movement and in nation building process. Similarly, their differences with respect to extremists is a probable question. It some shades of it was also observed in 2021 wala question, and it can be used as a discussion in question if there is around Swadeshi and boycott. So you are able to get the hang of it, right? So whatever we are trying to develop content, some points, some pointers, we are trying to develop them as a concise format for highlighting cross-utilizable questions, cross-utilizable content. Next set of national movement phases is of the revolutionaries. So revolutionaries came in two phases, and questions on both the phases are not equally important. Question around the areas of 19 to post 1921 wala phase is a very important, since it is a like long due question and it hasn't been there in the mains from long, but it has been there in prelims for so many times. So I feel, and we also both of us feel that this is a very probable area.
And it's not.
While preparing it don't just talk about like just throw names and say like it was there, that was there. Focus on the contribution that they made. Focus on the organization and also what was the ideologies and features which they stand for. So ideology and feature wala question, this content can be used in if there is a lesson, say some personality related question of Bhagat Singh or the Chandrasekhar Azad, which is very probable area. Like in every 2 3 years, a personality based questions come. They do ask about a particular personality and say how it stood for. So let's say there is a question around Bhagat Singh, and they may link to it to the Bhagat Singh should be known for his ideological basis rather than his revolutionary activities. Critically e- examine. So this is a very probable and very like this. ये question कभी भी उठ के आ
and
सकता है.
and
So you
also in
need to
this
be prepared
and
for
also
such
in
kind
this
of questions, and that can only be done if you know what kind of contributions, ideology, and features that they have. Secondly, don't just limit yourself to Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, and the HSRA. Also include Dhaka Anushilan. Also include the Chittagaon Armory
अब वो
raid.
ड्रॉ
So
मैप
such
पंजाब
detail.
पंजाब बंगाल एंड एक्सेट्रा ड्रॉ मैप
Yes,
कि वहां
yes,
पे मैप बना के यू शो कि यहाँ पे ये लोग थे
exactly.
एंड जस्ट लाइक निखिल सेड डू नॉट जस्ट थ्रो द नेम्स है ना इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यू एडिशन डज नॉट fulfill the purpose. You have to fulfill the demand of the generally in these questions. They do not ask the revolutionaries. Revolutionary matlab those person who did the terroristic type of activities. They don't ask these people. That's why if you observe na, they have always asked the moderates and not the extremists. Why is it so? Because they think that it should be linked to the present day circumstances and or the present day ideology. So they generally ask, if they ask, they will ask in the revolutionary, they will ask from the second phase, because second phase is linked to the socialism aspect and is linked to the present day ideologies. Secondly, they when they ask the moderates na, so they are asking ki why exactly why did moderates fail. मतलब they can ask there is a special features of moderates. For example, उन्होंने पूरे देश को ये कर दिया. They integrated the nation है ना at that time, and it's very difficult to integrate the nation at that point of time. So what was their special contribution? I think they have also asked this thing. I'll show you. And they have asked this thing. They can ask it again anytime. moderates में.
They asked like to what extent did they prepare the base for?
Yes, yes. And they should also have asked ki why did they fail, because that is the very obvious thing ki the people who started the integration process, and why did they fail. इतना बड़ा काम अगर किसी ने किया है तो why are they failing, है ना. यहाँ पे कहीं होगा. I remember
ऊपर है second number, second third number.
Yes, here that you can see my screen.
ये वाला है ना, ये वाला. Why moderates fail to carry the conviction with that. देखो अब why they fail to carry the conviction. तो अब ये इतना, but this is a very important question, because इस question से आपको ये idea, you will get the idea कि what UPSC is looking for. They are looking कि those people who started the integration process, why did they fail to carry the conviction, है ना. They are asking about the conviction. So was there any loophole in their ideology, है ना. Then you have to link it with the present times also. Secondly, they also asked to what extent moderates prepare the base, and to what extent moderate, to what extent matlab you have to prepare both sides. There are 3-4 arguments as far as I remember in the NCRT or in the spectrum with respect to negatives of moderates. And when you are writing the negatives, for example, you are writing that they could not integrate the women section. So you have to give the evidence also कि women क्यों नहीं कर पाए, है ना. If you write in depth, you write the argument in the bracket कि they failed to carry the women because this, है ना. Similarly, if you say that they failed to carry the general masses, they failed to carry the students, है ना, they were limited to the elites. Now
Yes,
if
also, and they actually did not advocate the for the labor reforms. They actually
yes,
opposed the Factories Acts,
exactly,
and
you throw
which
the
was
names.
what the actually extremists tried to integrate into. I mean, Tilak was one of the earliest labor leaders when actually he was arrested, and when massive protests took place, Lenin held it as an entry of Indian socialism into, like, entry of Indian masses into the revolution.
Exactly. And as far as I remember, if you open the working class movement chapter of spectrum ना, उसमें शुरू में ही they have mentioned कि moderates oppose this labor reforms, है ना. So this is the part of interlinkages. When you will read the part on the moderates, failure of moderates in the book, this point will not be written over there, but the opposition of the labor reforms, it is written in the chapter of working class movements, है ना. So you have to pick up that point and write it in the failure part. This is the integration part. And now when you are writing the failure part na, a normal student will write ki they oppose the labor reforms, है ना. You have to give the evidences also. As far as I remember, 3-4 organization के नाम दिए हैं, अभी मैं बोल रहा हूँ, they are readily available in the spectrum. You throw those names, then that part will be clear. You wrote the extra point also, and you wrote with the value addition also. Now value addition will come. You drop the names, of the leaders, you drop the names of the organization, you drop the years also. In history, as Nikhil was saying, history is about facts, है ना. You have to drop the facts, you have to drop the years, names of the person, हमारे Indian leaders, ब्रिटिशर्स के लीडर्स, वो सारी चीजें आपको स्पेसिफिक फेंकनी पड़ेंगे, तभी you will be able to impress the examiner. I think you get it, है ना.
And this is the entire exercise what we are trying to do, because you will be able to write any answer on moderates any day. I mean, uh, every one of you would be comfortable in addressing the question, but very few of you would be able to know ki, which 4 organizations were there, what kind of year was this. Like the point which I talked about, if you can say drop a box and highlight the Lenin's perspective of heralding of Indian masses into revolution, don't you think examiner won't be impressed? So this kind of detail, this kind of preparation, this kind of minute note making that we seek to implement in via this initiative.
Let me digress. I'll show you this how to convert it into the notes, है ना. Now I'll show you what notes did I make for the moderates. You are able to see this moderates section where my cursor is. Very
Yes
good,
sir, yes.
है ना. तो अब देखो इसमें मैंने क्या लिखा है. अब when I was making the notes, I wrote it in a very short language. CGL means constitutionalism, gradualism and liberalism, है ना. जो मैंने याद करते हुए I made a mnemonic, I wrote this. 3P मतलब petition, prayer, propaganda. ठीक है. Elitist, ठीक है. अब elitist providence theory. अब यहाँ पे I am not writing the complete sentence. I am just indicating कि I have to think in that dimension also. You are getting na faith. Ab now they faith matlab I did not write faith in the masses. आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट फेथ का मतलब क्या है, समझ लो। अब सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट विद इन इंपीरियल फ्रेमवर्क, अब ये कोई बड़ा सा शब्द मेरे को मिला, दिस फ्रेज आई गॉट फ्रॉम दिस बंदोपाध्याय बुक, so I wrote it. Similarly, Curzon, I was telling you na Curzon kya, how did I write the points of Curzon in the notes. Now you are able to see this Curzon rectangle na. Now see, this is CC मतलब Calcutta Corporation Act होगा ये, everybody is able to see the screen ना,
Yes, sir.
है ना। CC is Calcutta Corporation Act, OSA should be Official Secret Act, BP should be Bengal Partition, UA should be University Act, and DT should be divide and rule, ठीक है। and now I wrote just initials, है ना। similarly 3 + 2 + 2 is equal to, अब ये क्या है 3 plus, अब this was the method I remembered the of reforms। अब शुरू वाले क्या है, इसके नेगेटिव्स हैं, जो शुरू के 5 पॉइंट्स हैं। सेकंड वाला जो एरो है ये 3 + 2 ये इसके रिफॉर्म्स हैं, दीज आर द रिफॉर्म्स ऑफ द कर्जन। 3 रिफॉर्म्स इसके कुछ उसके हैं कमीशन वाले, है ना। नाउ आई डिड नॉट राइट द नेम्स ऑफ द कमीशन, है ना, यू आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग why, because I should it is not needed here, because those things I remembered during the prelims notes, है ना, during prelims times I need not to write these things। बस मैं, अब मेरे को if I recall, एक फ्रेजर कमीशन थी पुलिस की, one was the Colin Scott of irrigation and one was for the I'm for famine कमीशन थी कोई एक, भूल गया मैं, ठीक है। तो ये 3 कमीशन थी, ठीक है। सेकंड 2 आर फॉर द डिपार्टमेंट्स, 2 डिपार्टमेंट्स ही मेड अप, कॉमर्स डिपार्टमेंट एंड एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट। सेकंड दिस 2 आर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द एक्ट्स। वन वाज द रेलवे एक्सपेंशन उसने किया था, एंड सेकंड वाज द आर्कियोलॉजिकल एक्ट उसने लाया। सी व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, व्हाट आई एम राइटिंग इन द नोट्स is in the very concise format. I am not translating the complete notes of my prelims into the notes, समझ लो ना, इस ऐसे ही छोटे नोट्स बनेंगे। अब उसके बाद क्या, व्हाट डिड आई राइट, AF CSM, ये अब कुछ आई एम नॉट एबल टू रिकॉल, ये स्पेक्ट्रम के लास्ट पेजेस में है ना। यू आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड ना कि कैसे लिखना। अब देखो यहाँ पे आई एम राइटिंग द राइज लिखना, मान लो राइज का क्या है ये कि नेशनलिज्म राइज क्यों हुआ, ठीक है। अब उसके मैंने क्या अपना नेमोनिक बना रखा था, परिणीति मतलब ये प्रेस, लिटरेचर, एजुकेशन, इज फास्ट मतलब फॉरेन डोमिनेशन, ए से एग्रीकल्चर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंटीग्रेशन, एस से सोशल रिफॉर्म्स, टी से ट्रांसपोर्ट, LY से लिटन, RI से रिपन। अब लिटन के 4 पॉइंट्स है, आई रिमेंबर देम करेक्टली, वर्नाकुलर प्रेस एक्ट, आर्म्स एक्ट, और एक एज वाला था सिविल सर्विसेज का, एडसन कमीशन, और एक और था कोई, ठीक है। और
दिल्ली दरबार,
हाँ दिल्ली दरबार, ठीक है, वो फेमाइन कमीशन वाला, ठीक है। फिर उसके बाद रिपन वाला, रिपन के 3 पॉइंट है, इल्बर्ट बिल कंट्रोवर्सी, लेबर रिफॉर्म से उसके एक लेबर एक्ट वाले, है ना, इंडस्ट्री एक्ट वाले। फिर उसके बाद ये, अब ये कैटलिस्ट ये वर्ड है, ये वर्ड मेरे को डालना ही डालना है। अब ये मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन बन जाएगा, समझ रहे हो ना, व्हाट आई एम, हाउ आई एम मेकिंग द नोट्स। और उसके बाद ये इंट्रोडक्शन कहीं पे आएगा तो बिपिन चंद्रा का लिखा है कि नेशनलिज्म सोड द सीड्स ऑफ दिस नेशनलिज्म वेल एंड डीप, इट वाज अ स्पेक्टेकुलर मूवमेंट, ऐसे मतलब। अब उसका पूरा कोट आई डिड नॉट राइट द कंप्लीट कोट, आई जस्ट रोट द वर्ड्स, है ना, सो दैट these are not the exact notes or not the exact words of the notes. These are just indicative of the ideas I have to think while recalling, because that's why I was saying these are LMR, मतलब these are last minute recall notes and not revision notes. You are understanding na how the notes are to be prepared parallelly.
Sir, basically these will act as triggers, right?
Triggers, yes, exactly, triggers, because our complete understanding with respect to learning will be using active recall and spaced repetition, है ना, because we will be recalling, we will not be revising. You understanding na, when you recall the things go to a permanent memory for a longer time. For अब मेरा देख लो ना, मैंने 2021 में बनाए थे नोट्स, I made these notes in 2021, है ना, and I never updated them, but still I was able to recall 70 to 80% when I was delivering abhi. This is the power of active recall. So these will act as a triggers. अब इसमें क्या है देखो, I wrote this keywords. I intentionally just wrote the keywords. William Wedderburn safety valve theory, myth of European invincibility, गुर्रा नैयर ने इसके ऊपर कुछ बोला होगा, ठीक है, अगेंस्ट व्हाइट मैन बर्डन थ्योरी। अब देखो सारे कीवर्ड्स हैं आपके, ठीक है। आई एम राइटिंग दीज कीवर्ड्स बिकॉज आई नीड टू थ्रो दीज कीवर्ड्स, इसको बोलते हैं वैल्यू एडिशन। उसके बाद आपका एक्सट्रीमिस्ट आया, ये आया, अब ये क्या है, ये अब देखो ये कुछ नया सा मेरे को कहीं पे मिला था, ठीक है, कि जो भारत माता वाली इमेज है स्वदेशी के अंदर, कौन, बुक, क्लोथ और रुद्राक्ष। अब इसको आई डिड नॉट राइट द एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ दीज वर्ड्स, आई विल एक्सप्लेन दीज वर्ड्स एट दैट टाइम, आई विल नॉट एट द ग्रामर, है ना। स्वदेशी, ये देखो ये क्या है, स्वदेशी वाला, स्वदेशी के अंदर ये क्या है, अब ये मैंने उसके सारे पॉइंट्स अपने याद किए थे उस टाइम पे, ठीक है। अब लार्ज बेस बनाया था, बॉयकॉट बनाया था, उसके 3 पॉइंट्स थे। ये बनाया, इसके इंडस्ट्रीज का किया था, इंडस्ट्री उसने एक पीसी रे ने इंडस्ट्री बनाई थी, है ना, केमिकल्स की, ठीक है। एजुकेशन उसने किया था, एजुकेशन का कोई एक प्रिंसिपल बना था, और अरविंदो घोष समिति बनाई थी, अनुशीलन समिति, समझ रहे हो। फिर ये ASME अनवर सोनार बांग्ला है, ये भारत माता है। फिर कैरेट एंड सीक, ऑल आई रोट द ऑल द कीवर्ड्स, है ना। अभी देखो प्रेस मेरे को रिकॉल करना है, प्रेस रिकॉल करना है तो साउथ इंडिया के 2 हैं। अब आई एम नॉट राइटिंग द नेम्स, आई एम जस्ट writing the triggers so that I am able to recall. You are understanding na? Ab now Bismil will all tell other topics.
So, in continuation of the national movement wala aspect, next set of theme would be of the national movement, 3 major Gandhian national movement themselves. So you know, like they are NCM, CDM, and Quit India. So it has been a while since they asked particularly about a national movement in themselves. However, what I feel that there can be a chance of them asking compare and contrast on them. So like they may ask that like Quit India movement is unlike rest of the two Gandhian major Gandhian movement. So why it was like, so there was this Karnataka model when they would like protest non-violently in the day, but there was violence in the night. Then there was youth. Then there was the despite being major leaders getting arrested, the movement actually sustained and continued. Similarly, you can compare CDM with NCM. So what I'm trying to do here is, though you would be knowing what CDM is, what NCM is, writing a crisp, short, and to the point answer that too in 7 or 11 minutes or in 2 and 3 pages would be a bit difficult. So, as exhibited by Naman in his very short LMR notes, you should have a paragraph, a short point, whatever way you would be able to recall and reproduce them. Not revise, but recall and reproduce them. Such kind of content needs to be prepared by you. And that would actually give you an excellent background for writing other questions around the role of women, the role of national movement, like the in the nation building, etc. And the another like a bit of another event, another movement which from which question is due since long is 1857. So they may ask you about critique calling 18 revolt of 1857 as first war of independence. So like this was also seen in last question related to that was in 2019, and then there was in 2016. So both of these mean that they are long due. I mean, we were also expecting the same question in 2025. If that was not there in 2025, what happens is in some of the topics there is a delay of 1 year. So me and Naman both feel that the this year this is a very important theme of revolt of
And if
1857.
you carefully observe, na, with respect to this historians' names, you do not have to go and search the other books. Spectrum में there is a separate column, है ना, where different types of historians and their opinions is given with respect to 1857 revolt. You just have to pick those things.
Yes.
Let me show. I'll show if this spectrum will allow me. है ना, स्पेक्ट्रम में वहां पे दिए हैं सारे, तो वहीं से आपको पिकअप करने हैं सारे. लेट मी 189 पेज. एक सेकेंड. 189. वहां पे अब जैसे इस 1857 में ये तो पता ही है. अब उसमें स्टैंडर्ड सा एक जो मेरा ओपिनियन था फाइनल कि इट वाज मोर देन अ पीजेंट रिवोल्ट, है ना, बट लेस देन अ नेशनल रिवोल्ट, है ना. अब ये मेरा फाइनल ओपिनियन है, बट ये ओपिनियन पे आने के लिए आई नीड टू टेक द हेल्प ऑफ अदर पीपल. अब वो सारी चीजें स्पेक्ट्रम में दी हुई हैं, बस हमको नजरिया चाहिए ना.
Yes. And another thing is what majorly focus of candidates is what was the reward, what was its positive, what were its negative, but also they do to ask about what was the impact of it. So in 2 occasions, one was the run up to the 1857 uprising, and another was 1857 revolt acting as a watershed. So since both of these areas are being asked, they can ask about the critique of overall revolt in themselves. And for the critique to have it, you need to have argument from the both sides of the coin
अब
and
देखो ये
some expert arguments.
एग्जैक्टली अब देखो ये इसके लास्ट में जो समरी टेबल है, दे हैव गिवन इन द समरी टेबल ओनली आरसी मजूमदार नाइदर फर्स्ट नॉर, अब ये दीस कैन एक्ट एज अ इंट्रोडक्शन आल्सो और कंक्लूजन आल्सो, इट इज अप टू यू हाउ विल यू यूज दिस थिंग्स, है ना, एज अ वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस, ठीक है, एलिटिस्ट इन कैरेक्टर, नाउ रिमेंबर दीज नेम्स एंड रिमेंबर दिस कोट्स. अब ये एग्जैक्टली इसका एग्जैक्टली कोट क्या है याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, यू जस्ट हैव टू रिमेंबर द आइडिया कि सावरकर वाज सेइंग इट इज अ वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस, है ना, यू हैव टू जस्ट रिमेंबर द आइडिया कि मजूमदार वाज सेइंग इट इज नाइदर फर्स्ट नॉर नेशनल वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस, नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. अब इफ यू आर, लेट्स से इफ यू आर राइटिंग व्हेन इन द 1857 you must be writing somewhere कि it is not an organized, it failed because it was not an organized revolt, है ना. When you are writing this point तो bracket में you need to substantiate your argument, है ना, that will act as a value addition. value addition के लिए you do not have to go anywhere else, सब कुछ आपके बुक में दिया हुआ है, बस वो नजरिया चाहिए देखने के लिए. अब मैं क्या लिखूंगा जब इट इज नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइज्ड नेशनल रिवोल्ट, अब मैं मजूमदार और एस एस सेन का नाम चिपका दूंगा बगल में कि एज पर आरसी मजूमदार एंड एस एन सेन इट वाज नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइज्ड नेशनल रिवोल्ट, ठीक है. उसके बाद सेकंड जब मैं क्रिटिक बोलूंगा कि इट इज एलिटिस्ट इन कैरेक्टर एज पर इन द ओपिनियन ऑफ, जैसे मतलब हिस्टोरियंस लिखते हैं कि एरिक स्टोक्स ओपाइंड दैट 1857 रिवोल्ट वाज एलिटिस्ट इन कैरेक्टर. अब ये मेरी आंसर राइटिंग हो गई, यही मेरा हो गया, समझ रहे हो ना, हाउ स्मार्टली यू आर पिकिंग अप द कंटेंट फ्रॉम द बुक. अब उसके बाद अब ये कंक्लूजन अगर अब इम्पैक्ट है, इम्पैक्ट भी इफ यू राइट इम्पैक्ट, बहुत हाई प्रोबेबिलिटी इम्पैक्ट अब तक आया नहीं है कि 1857 का इम्पैक्ट क्या है, या शायद आया है या फिर मॉक टेस्ट में आता था. इसके क्या है, एक तो क्राउन के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट क्या था, ठीक है, कंपनी के ऊपर क्या पड़ा, आपके इंडियन स्टेट्स के ऊपर क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ा, पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ा, ठीक है, आर्मी रीऑर्गेनाइज. अब इसके स्पेसिफिक फैक्ट्स हैं कि बंगाल के अंदर और बंगाल वाली आर्मी के साथ सेपरेट उन्होंने ट्रीटमेंट दिया था और मद्रास के साथ अलग किया था, 2:5 और 1:3 वाला रेशियो था, है ना. यू हैव टू रिमेंबर दो फैक्ट्स, यहाँ पे दिए हुए सब चीजें हमारी नजरों के सामने है, बस हमें वो कलेक्ट नहीं करनी आ रही. अब इन्हीं चीजें मैं दिखाता हूँ, मैंने अपने नोट्स में लिखा है. अब जब मैंने अब कलेक्ट किया था तो मैंने स्पेशली ये इन्हीं चीजों को लिखा था. 1857 ये रहा, ठीक है, ये देखो ये मेरे 1857 के रिवोल्ट के नोट्स हैं. अब मैंने इसमें क्या लिखा, वाटरशेड मूवमेंट. अब ये क्या, वाटरशेड इवेंट, अब ये मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन की तरह है, मैंने यहाँ पे इसलिए लिखा है कि इसको इंट्रोडक्शन में लिखूंगा वर्ड को मैं, ठीक है. अब ये वाटरशेड इवेंट अगर किसी हिस्टोरियन ने बोला है तो हम हिस्टोरियन का नाम चिपका दूंगा, ठीक है. फिर उसके बाद इंडियन रिबेल्स मैनिफेस्टो आजमगढ़ ये किसी एनसीईआरटी से आई पिक दिस वर्ड, है ना, मतलब किसी प्रीलिम्स की टेस्ट सीरीज में सो दिस वर्ड, तो मैंने सोचा इसको इंट्रोडक्शन या कहीं पे लिखेंगे. बहादुर शाह जफर की दो स्पेशलिटी थी जो पॉजिटिव थे, एक तो हिंदी मुस्लिम यूनिटी, और बहादुर शाह जफर को उन्होंने वो माना था. एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव से ये तो सिंपल है. फिर उसके बाद ये रीजंस है. अब इकोनॉमिक रीजन, इकोनॉमी के मैं सारे नहीं लिखूंगा, इकोनॉमी के मैंने जो पॉइंट्स है वो अलग से आगे यहाँ पे जब इकोनॉमी लिखा हुआ मैंने, इकोनॉमी में मैंने सारा यहाँ लिखा हुआ है, ये सारा इकोनॉमी का पेज है, तो मैं इकोनॉमी के पॉइंट्स यहाँ नहीं लिखूंगा, वहां मैंने लिखे हुए हैं, मतलब आई वोंट रिपीट द नोट्स. इकोनॉमी बस मैंने इंडिकेटिव है कि हाँ इकोनॉमी के पॉइंट्स रिकॉल कर, अब चल बैठ के सारे नाउ रिकॉल. एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव के दो पॉइंट्स है मेनली, एक तो करप्शन वाला था और एक ये करप्शन वाला था, एक और था इसमें अभी ये समझ नहीं आ रहा, ठीक है. सोशल का दो था, एक तो रेशियल थ्योरी थी, ठीक है, एक ये इन्होंने वो बना रखे थे कैंटोनमेंट्स, है ना अपने, ठीक है. फिर उसके बाद इसके आप एविडेंस दे सकते हो ये रेशियल थ्योरी के उससे पहले वाले, ठीक है. फिर उसके पॉलिटिकल के आपको पता ही है, ये डलहौजी और वो चिपका दो, डलहौजी के कैसे वॉर और पीस के बना रखा है, ये हुआ. फिर उसके देखो मोर देन सेपॉय के मेरे पास एविडेंसेस हैं. अवध और बिहार में सेपॉयज ने से ज्यादा लोगों ने पार्टिसिपेट किया, गुरखा सिख रेजिमेंट्स ने पार्टिसिपेट किया, मद्रास और बॉम्बे क्या नाम है उस मद्रास और बॉम्बे ने शायद पार्टिसिपेट नहीं किया था. इट वाज लेस देन नेशनल कि वो नेशन था, नेगेटिव इनसिग्निफिकेंस था, स्प्रेड था, विजन फ्यूचर के लिए मिसिंग था. ब्रेक वाटर टू द स्टॉर्म, अब ये कीवर्ड है ब्रेक वाटर टू द स्टॉर्म, आई सो इन द स्पेक्ट्रम ओनली, कहीं पे दिया हुआ है ब्रेक वाटर टू द स्टॉर्म, कैनिंग ने बोली थी ये बात, है ना, कैनिंग का ओपिनियन है. तो ब्रेक वाटर्स अब मैंने देखा ब्रेक वाटर्स कौन कौन थे, आई नोटेड कि जमींदार थे, मनी लेंडर थे, रूलर थे, बंगाली इंटेलिजेंसिया थे, गुरखा सिख रेजिमेंट थे. अब यहाँ पे अब बंगाली इंटेलिजेंसिया मेरा जोन सा मन करेगा मैं नाम चिपका दूंगा उस टाइम पे, कि बस ये ध्यान रखूंगा 1857 से पुराना नाम हो वो. अब यहाँ पे मैंने नेगेटिव लिख रखे हैं, मैन मनी मटेरियल, पीजेंट इन यूनिफॉर्म, ये बोलूंगा कि एलिटिस्ट इन कैरेक्टर थे तो मैं चिपका दूंगा एरिक स्टोक्स ने बोली है ये वाली बात. अब वो एग्जामिनर चेक थोड़ी करने जाएगा, उसको भी नहीं पता इम्पैक्ट क्या है. इम्पैक्ट मैंने बता दिया, गवर्नेंस के ऊपर था, एमनेस्टी के ऊपर था, रूलिंग फिलोसफी पे था. फिर कंक्लूजन भी तैयार किया हुआ है, इट वाज फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस दैट शुक द, अभी देखो वीडी सावरकर ने बोला हुआ है ये, ठीक है, फाइट रिलीजन के लिए था, एस एन सेन ने बोला था। समझ रहे हो ना कैसे? अब सारी चीजें हमारे पास हैं, बस उसको कलेक्ट नहीं करते हम, वी आर नॉट कलेक्टिंग द थिंग्स, वो बस इकट्ठी कर रखी है हमने, बुक में लिखी है, नोट्स में उल्टे सीधे। अब नोट्स में क्या है, यू विल राइट द डिटेल्ड एक्सप्लेनेशन इकोनॉमिक इंपैक्ट क्या था, वो सभी नोट्स में नहीं लिखनी है, यू डोंट हैव टू राइट दोस थिंग्स इन नोट्स, वो चीजें ब्रेन में लिखनी है, नोट्स में तो सिर्फ ट्रिगर्स लिखने हैं तुमको, यू जस्ट हैव टू राइट द ट्रिगर्स इन द नोट्स। आई होप एवरीवन इज गेटिंग।
और ये एंटायर एक्सरसाइज करा ही इसलिए जा रही है कि आपको पता चले कि कैसे बनाना है, हाउ, मतलब देर आर नोट्स ऑफ 500 पेजेस, 600 पेजेस, 800 पेजेस इन द मार्केट एंड विच आर readily available for at your disposal. However, the issue is that those cannot be reproduced in the exam क्योंकि they cannot be recalled, they cannot be revised, they cannot be like remembered. Only those notes which you have made, which you have made by your brain, by your analysis, by your brainstorming, by your thinking. So that is why we are calling it as a thinking based approach, whereby your thinking actually is reflected onto the page of paper. And that page you can reproduce everywhere because that page is actually a child of your mind. You can imprint that page whether in your notes, whether on your iPad, or whether on the answer sheet, means answer sheet of your UPSC exam.
And now I'll let me show this in 18th century India also ना, 18th century के इंडिया के नोट्स क्या थे कि अब इंडियंस, अब उसमें दे हैव नॉट आस्क्ड दिस, इट इज मेंशन्ड इन द 12th एनसीईआरटी कि इंडियन स्टेट्स ने जब एस्टेब्लिश किया, दे एस्टेब्लिश द रूल, इट वाज मेजरली ऑन द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मुगल्स, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मुगल्स, है ना, तो गिव एविडेंसेस, और उनके लूप होल्स क्या थे। अब नाउ आई रोट दिस, मुगल सेक्टर लिया था, सेकुलर थे, और सेकुलर का एग्जांपल हमें पता ही है, जो एक तो ये वाले आते हैं, टीपू सुल्तान आते हैं शायद, है ना, और एक पंजाब वाले भी आते हैं, ये हुआ। फिर उसके बाद आपका देखो, अब मेरे को पता है कि जैसे निखिल वाज सेइंग कि दे विल आस्क एनी टाइम, दे विल आस्क दिस, व्हाई वाज ब्रिटिश एबल टू कॉन्क्वेस्ट। अब इट, आई थिंक दिस क्वेश्चन केम इन 2022 एंड आई रोट अ वेरी गुड आंसर, नंबर बहुत अच्छा है तो साल मेरे, बिकॉज आई एंटिसिपेटेड दिस कि ये दे विल आस्क, क्योंकि इफ यू आर अ गुड स्टूडेंट, आप हमेशा सोचोगे कि व्हाई, व्हाट एग्जैक्टली हैपेंड कि ब्रिटिश वर एबल टू कॉन्क्वेस्ट अस। देयर वर टू रीजंस, British were superiors through their policies or through their administrative structure, and we were inferior. And how we were inferior, उसके मेरे पास I have to need to have some solid arguments. अब solid arguments क्या है, अब मैं I won't pick up any book, बस मैं अपनी जो NCERT वगैरह है वहां से एक तो डायमेंशन इकट्ठे कर लूंगा कि वहां पे लिखे हुए हैं डायमेंशन की, पॉजिटिव ये है, नेगेटिव ये है। अब एजुकेशन के ऊपर ये कुछ लिखी है चीजें, इम्पैक्ट, ठीक है, वहां पे अब मैंने यही चीजें लिख रखी हैं। अब जब एकदम से इफ आई टेल यू ना, रिकॉल, टेल मी द पॉइंट्स व्हाई इंडिया वाज इंफीरियर टू द ब्रिटिशर्स, है ना, यू वोंट बी एबल टू रिकॉल। अब आई एंटिसिपेटेड कि ये क्वेश्चन आएगा, तो मैंने यहाँ पे चीजें लिख रखी हैं ऐसी पॉजिटिव। अब इफ आई आस्क यू व्हाट आर द पॉजिटिव्स ऑफ आवर 18th सेंचुरी इंडिया, व्हाट वाज द मतलब स्ट्रेंथ, है ना, तो सबसे पहली चीज तो हिंदू मुस्लिम यूनिटी, दिस वाज पॉइंट इन रेलेवेंट इन 1857 रिवोल्ट आल्सो एंड हियर आल्सो। फिर उसके बाद हमारा कल्चर बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग था, ये लिटरेचर, आज ये तो आपको पता ही है, अब सारा आर्किटेक्चर वो सब लिटरेचर जो एग्जांपल्स दिए हुए हैं सारे। एंड देन ये हुआ। अब उसके बाद फिर वही कुछ नए नए से मेरे को सेंटेंसेस मिल जाते तो मैं लिख लेता था, इकोनॉमिक डिफेक्ट्स बैलेंस बाय पॉलिटिकल मेरिट्स, है ना, पॉलिटिकल मेरिट्स। अब इसके, अब देखो यहाँ ब्रेक वाटर्स लिखा है मैंने, केयरफुली ऑब्जर्व, यहाँ जो ये जब मैं लिख रहा हूँ लैंड रेवेन्यू पॉलिसीज के कंक्लूजन, उसमें लिखा पॉलिटिकल मेरिट्स क्या थे, एक तो लॉयल्टी आ गई थी, ब्रेक वाटर्स आ गए थे, और काउंटर नेशनलिज्म आया था। अब ब्रेक वाटर के जो पॉइंट है वो मैंने यहाँ लिखे हैं ना 1857 में, आई वोंट रिपीट दिस पॉइंट्स हियर, बस मैंने इंडिकेशन किया है कि ब्रेक वाटर्स कौन है, रिकॉल कर जल्दी से, नहीं रिकॉल हो रहे तो जाके नोट्स में अपने चेक कर, एक ही जो भी कंटेंट होगा उसको एक ही जगह लिखा जाएगा, वी वोंट रिपीट आवर कंटेंट, नहीं तो फिर वो 400-500 पेज के नोट्स बन जाएंगे, कोई सेंस नहीं है उस चीज की। और फिर आपको रिकॉल करने का भी ना ट्रिगर नहीं मिलेगा, आप कभी रिकॉल करोगे ही नहीं, आप हमेशा वही एक ही चीज रहेगी कि भाई जल्दी से नोट्स खोल के रिवाइज कर लेते हैं, रिवाइज नहीं करना है, वी हैव टू रिकॉल। रिवाइज करोगे तो फिर वही सेम दिक्कत रिपीट होगी, बार बार सेम दिक्कत रिपीट होगी, है ना। अब निखिल बताएगा आगे।
The next theme would be of the personalities and ideologies. And as I have said earlier, they don't ask about the contribution in terms of like literal meaning of the personalities, but rather they ask how they impacted via their ideologies. Even this year, the Fule question was itself how they actually impacted subaltern initiatives across the country. So the ideology which Phule stood for was asked there. And the first thing would be of the socio-religious reforms. As we know why they happened, we have already covered in the theme of India at the onset of British rule. So we would know why there is. We won't be doing. We won't repeat our efforts. We have prepared it, and we know what to write here. However, what to write and who to write. I mean, who actually carried these reforms and what was the ideology behind them. So this is very, very, very probable, and this can be asked. So rather than asking a personality, they may disguise that question something of a religious, social religious reforms. That was like the case in the growth of social religious reform movements and young
21
Bengal and Brahmo Samaj.
ये 21 में आया था.
Yes, this is a 2020 question. And here, the additional thing you can do is the value addition you can do is link these to the national movement. So, contribution, there is a very probable question that what was the contribution of social religious reforms in the nation building? So, how it actually impacted? Even if they don't ask directly, if let's say there is a question on why RRR is called as father of Indian Renaissance. So you can hear itself say that the reforms, the ideas which it stood for actually led to development of national consciousness, and it actually led to development of national movement as a base. Here again I would like to show you how a very crisp note itself can be noted from the book itself. Uh, let me share my
And now let me show जब तक वो दिखाता है.
so let's say this is
ठीक है, अभी एक सेकंड में दिखा देता हूँ. मैंने अपने नोट्स में क्या लिखा था देखो. एक तो दो चीजें थी कि एसआरएम डिड टू थिंग. फर्स्ट वाज द पाथ फॉर रिफॉर्मेशन, है ना. व्हाट इज दिस पाथ फॉर रिफॉर्मेशन, एंड सेकंड वाज द मॉडर्न नेशनलिज्म. ठीक है. अब इसके अंदर जो बेसिक इंट्रोडक्शन, जो ये वाले टू, इफ यू रिमेंबर मैंने 21 में जब मेंस लिखा था वो क्वेश्चन डायरेक्ट ही आ गया था कि व्हाट ट्रेस द राइज एंड ग्रोथ ऑफ नेशनल मूवमेंट, है ना. तो उसका इंट्रोडक्शन आए, मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन वाज रेडी. व्हाट डिड आई राइट? वेस्टर्न क्लास इंटेलिजेंसिया, वेस्टर्न एजुकेटेड इंटेलिजेंसिया आया. They started judging through the western prism. ठीक है. And then there was a conviction for regeneration. ये मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन था, मतलब क्लियर इंट्रोडक्शन था सेट कि whenever social reform movement will come, कि हमारे पास थिंकिंग आई एजुकेशन वाली, मॉडर्न थिंकिंग आई. उससे फिर हमने जज स्टार्ट किया, जजिंग स्टार्ट करी, और जज स्टार्ट करने के बाद वी स्टार्टेड द कन्विक्शन. किस चीज का कन्विक्शन? कि रीजनरेशन करना है. और रीजनरेशन करने के ये स्टेप्स लिए गए. मैप बना के दिखा दो कि जो आपका बंगाल में ये हुआ, उसमें मैप बना दो प्रॉपर कि बंगाल में ये हुआ, और जो आपका अलग अलग रीजन है, सारे महाराष्ट्र का ये हुआ, पंजाब में ये हुआ, सारे मैप बना के दिखा दो मोटे मोटे. बाकी सब फिर पॉइंट्स आपको पता ही है. अब नाउ निखिल विल शो कि हाउ टू पिक अप द पॉइंट्स फ्रॉम द बुक इटसेल्फ.
So this is the like general survey of social reform movement wala chapter from Spectrum, and here you can see that I have only pointed out what are the 4-5 things details that I need to write. So one is like publication, which is percepts of Jesus. Then organization, which is Brahmo Samaj Atmiya Sabha. Then another thing, which is gift to monotheist, whereby he actually talked about the role of monotheism, which was actually reformation at that time. Here itself, you can see like if reason demands, even departure from scripture is justified. So if I know this point, that is sufficient for to justify everything what you stood for in terms of the religious reforms. Secondly, what he opposed idolatry and ritualism. That's it. This is the important point that you need to find out. Then here I have written rationalism and monotheism. You can see these two words which would be enough to encapsulate whatever he stood for. Then in addition to that, what did he do? He humanity, reason, and compassion. These are things he stood for. He then condemned subjugation of women and their inferior status. Then he was a linguistic and journals in many languages. So you can see that I have specifically pointed out a few points, few highlighters by which I can be able to build any answer which he actually talked about. And
if you carefully observe, na, this is the third level and the fourth level of law, four laws. And
yes,
he's collecting the arguments, the broad headings, and under those broad headings, what value addition you need to do. For example, he's saying he stood for the humanity and reason. है ना? Now he'll throw the evidences जो हमने पढ़े हैं. You'll collect the prelims knowledge and then उसमें you'll dump in the value addition, vomiting कर दोगे. But for that you need to have a broader structure. You need to have what argument you have to give. For example, ये तत्व बोधनी सभा है ना, this is not an argument, this is a value addition, this is a fourth level, this is not a third level. First you have to give the reason. That part when we were saying ki revolutionary, tell us what is the contribution of revolutionary, है ना. You do not have to example is not a solution for the arguments, है ना. Example is different, argument is different. First you have to give the argument कि what did the revolutionary do exactly. उनकी फिलॉसफी क्या थी, उनकी फिलॉसफी ये थी, उस फिलॉसफी को टू फुलफिल दैट फिलॉसफी दे डिड दिस, then you will give the argument, then you will give the example. Similarly in Roy question you will build the four मोटे मोटे argument कि वुमेन के लिए उन्होंने क्या किया, वुमेन की एक हेडिंग बना दी आपने, अब वुमेन के अंदर जो 4-5 उन्होंने काम किए, ठीक है, अब उसके अंदर you will drop the arguments, drop the facts जो वैल्यू एडिशन वाले हैं. सिमिलरली देन पॉलिटिकली अवेकनिंग, पॉलिटिकल फील्ड में उन्होंने क्या किया, ठीक है, उन्होंने एक वेस्ट और ईस्ट को मिक्स करने की बात करी थी कि चूज बेस्ट फ्रॉम बोथ द वर्ल्ड्स, है ना. अब उसके एविडेंस एक परसेप्ट ऑफ जीसस आपका गिफ्ट टू मोनोथीस्ट है, उसमें उन्होंने चीजें समझाई, ये आपका वैल्यू एडिशन है. आर्ग्यूमेंट है आपका कि मिक्सिंग द वेस्ट एंड ईस्ट, बट वैल्यू एडिशन क्या है, फोर्थ लेवल क्या है, फोर्थ लेवल क्या आपका, जो आपका बुक्स के एग्जांपल हो गए, जो आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के एग्जांपल हो गए, जो आपके इसके जो कलीग्स होंगे उसके डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कॉलीग्स है ना, उन सबके नाम चुका हो गया आप. आई होप एवरीवन इज गेटिंग, है ना. So let's proceed.
and then next set of ideology based question that is very probable and which will act as a readily disposable content is what were the different ideological churnings in the 1920s and 1930s. So they both of them, the ideological churning occurred because they were as a like in support of Gandhi or in reaction to Gandhi. So in within the Congress also there were Swarajists and then there was no changes, and then outside of the Congress there were communists, there were peasants, there were workers, there were tribals, there were revolutionaries. So what I want you to do is prepare a table or list of names whereby uh, the actually people who are associated with it. So when I say communist, you should be able to remember name of M.N. Roy, Abani Mukherjee. When you are talking about workers, you should be able to know name of S.A. Dange, Bradley Spratt. Uh, when you are talking about tribals, you would be able to know Alluri Sitarama Raju and then Rani Gaidinlu. So such kind of names, if you know, if you have a table, if you have something ready with you, that would be a tremendously utilizable content which you can use it anywhere, everywhere. And in addition, the decade of 1940s and the ideologies revolved around it. So there were like certain negotiations, then there were certain missions. They all have something of a principle behind them, uh, something of a deliberation, discussion, negotiation behind them. And there can be a like very probable question around what are the like events that actually led to the independence of India in the decade of 1940s, in the line of what they actually asked in earlier in 2019 as well. So like British imperial power complicating the process of power transfer during 1940s. So in line with this, another question is very probable, and for that you need to have details for it. So these both decade of 20s, 30s and 40s in terms of ideology and in terms of the events and the principles behind those events, you need to know, you need to remember, and you need to prepare all.
And in addition, how will you integrate news in this, है ना? what I used to do, I always remember the news item, the headings of the news, है ना. For example, if any tribal related person or the tribal organization was mentioned in the 15th August speech or Republic Day speech or in any other form, they were in the news, है ना. So when I'll be writing कि different ideologies rose up in the 1920s, 30s and 40s, तो अब first point I will write is that only, जो news वाला point है, ताकि so that examiner understands that I read the newspaper very well. Though I never read this, है ना, though I never read the newspaper apart from the interview preparation time, but I will show to the examiner that I read the newspaper religiously and I'm following it for the 3-4 years. So I used to collect the news evidences of 3-4 years and then store them in somewhere in my notes. कि whenever the question will come, I used to link it beforehand only. कि this news item, this news uh, heading can be linked to this question if the question comes. तो इंट्रोडक्शन में ही मैं उसको लिख देता था, so that examiner then and there understands कि he is a avid reader of newspaper. So that this is a foremost quality the examiner or those UPSC chairman they are looking for, the person who reads the newspaper every day and is able to link the news with the static part. Similarly with respect to this constitution, if anything changes with respect to the constitution, है ना, for example Jammu Kashmir का कुछ they did, है ना, or any other change they did, so you can integrate it with the whenever the question is coming with respect to the what change Britishers did or with any question which come with respect to the nationalistic renaissance, nationalistic identity, then you can throw कि the seed of this nationalistic identity was sowed during the times of national movement, as Bipin Chandra also said that the seeds were sown well and deep, है ना. So this is how we interlink the content. पढ़ा कहीं पे है and we are using it somewhere else. Now, Nikhil.
Again, similarly, like the events which led to Quit India movement. So it is again the like I have said, the decade of 1940s and event that led to it is they do ask the same question in some other form. I mean, hope you are getting my point of when I am saying it will give you a recyclable, ready-made set of content that you can use in other questions as well. Moving forward, the ideologies are done, and then they do ask specifically about the personalities, and the standalone personalities is also probable, which we will be discussing. But comparison between personalities has been twice reflected, and they did ask about Gandhi and Bose and Gandhi, Gandhi and Ambedkar. The question around Gandhi and Tagore is a very probable and it can be any day asked. Similarly, Gandhi and Ambedkar comparison in terms of like so while writing such comparisons, while preparing them, people often like tend to get here and there, and they don't know what kind of differences particularly to look for. So I have given you a few themes. Like I mean, they are neither exhaustive, neither they are applicable to everywhere. This is just a skeletal framework for you to a skeletal key whereby you can actually think, brainstorm, develop such certain content upon, so that you will have a readily crisp points at your disposal. They can be like what was their orientation in terms of state. So like the Gandhi was anarchist. He did not advocate a centralized large state compared to Ambedkar, who was for the parliamentarian state, a form of state government. However, like Gandhi advocated for grams, like very decentralized gram sabha oriented polity. Similarly, what was their opinion on government? What was their opinion on the economy? So let's say there was this question. Bose advocated for the extensive urbanization and industrialization based on the socialist lines. However, the Gandhi advocated that the economy should be based on village republics which are self-sufficient and the handicraft and uh, the local resource-based industry development. Similarly, the ownership of property, the education, the religion, what should be the course of national movement? So such kind of point to think upon, brainstorm upon, so that your answer gets differentiable orientation and quality content.
And with
This
respect to integration, I remember some question came in prelims also with respect to economy and ownership of property. Uh, Marxism and Gandhism का difference they asked, है ना? So how?
Yes, of course, that was even.
interlinked part. You do not have to go here and there. Question आया हुआ है उसी information को जैसे when I was talking with Utkarsh, I told you ना Bharravi Kirat Arjunia. How did I know? Because I remember those questions prelims वाले. I'll ensure that I use that information in mains somewhere whenever opportunity comes. That is I call opportune vomiting, है ना? कि जैसी opportunity मिली you start vomiting.
And then there is a like this year where they talked about Phule as a standalone personality and his ideological basis. There can be other personalities which are very probable, one of which is Bhagat Singh, another is Tilak, and one is Dadabhai Naroji. Since like moderates, like Naman talked about, moderates is one of their favorite areas from where they do ask questions. So instead of having an all-encompassing, yes, exactly, like Tishan said, Lal Bal Pal contribution. So the Dada Bhai wala aspect is very, very probable, very significant area. And also this year also, like in our probables, we talked about Phule as a major personality from which can be asked. So we were lucky at that time, and I feel we will be lucky once again, and there is a good chance that one of these standalone opportunity may come next year. And talking about the the Pareto optimized PYQ, so the Curzon and the Dalhousie we have already done. Similarly, the Gandhi and Bose have also been carried out. And again, so the constructive proxy, again, NCM and CDM as a movement we have already covered. And in addition to that, they did ask about thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi in present times and its significance. So, what I feel that considering the circumstances and the reputation that they have, and the departure of Gandhi from the prelims question paper itself, like earlier times, it was Gandhi was a prominent theme across the prelims paper, and which actually is reflected in the mains as well. But since the fact that Gandhi has also been departed from the prelims, I feel that it is of less of importance in terms of mains, but I feel you would be able to write if the Gandhi comes in the mains as well, in addition to whatever standalone personalities that we are talking about.
Also, I'll tell. I forgot when I was telling the moderates. Na, you must have read the 3 books with respect to the economic drain theory, है ना? When you were reading for the prelims. So everybody, you have read those things in the prelims, but you are not using in the mains. The names of the
Exactly.
books are. Let me tell. Names of the books are, for example, essays in colonialism was by Ranade, शायद R.C. Dutt, or economic history was by economic history of India was by R.C. Dutt. Essays in colonialism was by Ranade, and one more poverty and British rule by Narauji. है ना? Now
Naroji.
these 3 books you have studied for the prelims. है ना? Now the, uh, nowhere in prelims this thing will be important for you, but you can use these all the 3 books when the question comes. What are the contribution of moderates in the nationalism, or what explain the economic drain theory? Now I will use all these 3 books with evidences, and now I will try to bluff. I will first of all I'll write poverty and as per poverty and un-British rule by Dadabhai Narauji. He wrote, अब जो भी अंदर के arguments होंगे I'll cook up the arguments based on my understanding what I learned in the economic impact or economic drain theory as a general arguments in modern history. Second point I will pick up from the essays in colonialism by Arjuna Radai, argues that these arguments जो मेरे arguments economic में पढ़े थे. Then third point I will pick up economic history of India by R.C. Dutt. He argues following arguments. समझ रहे हो ना? How I am integrating the basic prelims knowledge. Everybody reads those books, but are you able to use those things into the mains? नहीं, है ना? That's what we call Pareto optimization. कि जो भी पढ़ रहे हो उसको इतना तमीज से पढ़ो कि always think of using those things कि जो भी आपने पढ़ी है वो यूज हो जाए. You are understanding ना? अब उसके लिए स्पेशल, अब उसके अंदर और भी एवेल्युएशन भी हो सकता है. शशि थरूर की बुक पढ़ते हैं हम सब लोग, है ना? अभी मैं देख रहा था कोई स्पेक्ट्रम में ही लिखा हुआ है कि 23% से 3% होगी इंडियन इकोनॉमिक कंट्रीब्यूशन रिड्यूस फ्रॉम 23 to 3%, है ना? अब उसमें लिखा हुआ अकॉर्डिंग टू हिस्टोरियंस. अब ये तो जनरल सी बात होगी. यू थ्रो द नेम, स्पेशल नेम शशि थरूर इन हिज बुक एन एरा ऑफ डार्कनेस मेंशन दिस थिंग. अभी इंट्रोडक्शन एंड कंक्लूजन कहीं पे भी काम आ सकता है आपका, है ना? अब दिस इज व्हाट आई कॉल वैल्यू एडिशन. लेकिन ये वैल्यू एडिशन तभी काम आएंगे इफ यू आर एबल टू इंटरलिंक योर सेल्फ. You are studying the economic impact question, economic impact chapter, and then you are thinking अच्छा यार moderates में पढ़ा था ये वाली चीज तो वहां पे भी काम आ जाएगी. Then you establish the link कि I'll use this thing over there. फिर प्रीलिम्स में अगर कुछ पढ़ रहे हो तो प्रीलिम्स की तो वैसी तुक्केबाजी से निकल जाता है, लेकिन प्रीलिम्स की जो नॉलेज है उसको यूज करना आना चाहिए, है ना. याद करने से प्रीलिम्स का फैक्ट्स क्या करोगे, तो उसको यूज करो. सिमिलरली अब देखिए यहाँ पे कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन है वुमेन है, अब ये सब प्रीलिम्स से पढ़ते हो ना दुनिया भर का, अब वो कि मैं 100% मतलब श्योर हूँ कि 80 से 90% जो लोग मेंस लिखते हैं उनको पता ही नहीं कि इन्फॉर्मेशन यूज कैसे करनी है, यूजेबिलिटी ही नहीं पता, याद कर रखा है बस दुनिया द्वारा. आई होप एवरीबडी. अब देखो ये वाला क्वेश्चन है, इससे भी बताता हूँ. ये वाला क्वेश्चन है डिफाइंग बैरियर्स ऑफ एज, ये वाला क्वेश्चन जो है ना, जेंडर रिलीजन. अब इस ऐसे क्वेश्चन के नोट्स बनाने हैं आपको, क्योंकि ये क्वेश्चन का जो कंटेंट है दैट इज स्कैटर्ड, है ना. आपको जब इफ यू हैव 5 मिनट्स बिफोर द एग्जाम एंड यू नीड टू रिकॉल ऑल द पॉइंटर्स ऑफ दिस, यू आर नॉट अलाउड टू रीड द स्कैन द बुक, है ना. पन्ने पलटने में सारा टाइम चला जाएगा. तो ऐसे क्वेश्चन के नोट्स बनाने हैं, या पर्सनैलिटी में टैगोर वर्सेस गांधी, उसके नोट्स बनाने हैं, उसके पॉइंटर्स बनाने हैं. जो जनरल फ्रेमवर्क है वो बिस्मिल ने बता दिया आपको कि लैंग्वेज, स्टेट, इकोनॉमी, ओनरशिप, पॉलिटी, जनरल फ्रेमवर्क है, मोटा मोटा सबका आइडिया रखो. और वो भी दे आर ऑल्सो आस्किंग आइदर द वेरी फेमस पर्सनैलिटी जस्ट लाइक द गवर्नर जनरल, वेरी फेमस पर्सनैलिटी, दोज gave the very huge imprint on our nationalism. Second, they are asking someone that was in the news, है ना, or they can ask this, but general personalities I don't think they will ask. So optimize your preparation, don't prepare general personalities, prepare a very big personalities और उनके ऊपर specific points get ready with those facts. For example, discuss role. अब now he gave a general structure कि pre-congress, early congress. अब now break the answer into these parts. अब pre-congress everybody reads this कदम्बली, शायद कदम्बली करके कोई था, she was, है ना. या तो कांग्रेस 1884 में she participated in the congress movement, है ना, कांग्रेस सेशन, है ना. We all read that but we are not able to use that in the answer. What is the point of remembering?
Again, like prelims knowledge can also be used. Everyone reads ki matlab Begum Hazrat Mahal kahan se thi. Pre-Congress mein she was also a contributor to the national movement. Similarly, prelims mein every popular magazine, every popular compilation has a theme of Rani Velu Nachiyar. Any of you would be incorporating Rani Velu Nachiyar in your answer? Hello, am I audible? Hello.
हाँ audible है.
Yes, yes. So similarly, like in early Congress, like Naman said, the Kadambini Ganguly. So such kind of, so here the content is scattered, and so scattered content you need to put certain names under certain headings to ensure that you have a readily disposable like 4, 5, 7, 8 points you can use in any of the answers. So one time they asked about, so when they talk about age, gender, and religion, I'm giving you a general framework, and you can pick certain names from them and say like how it defined the gender, how it defined the barrier, how it defined the religion, and they were actually the torch bearers because they even participated in revolutions, they even participate in the tribal sphere. So like if again, let me give you another example. Tribal movements as a question itself is a very probable area, but very few of you would be able to name anyone apart from Rani Gaidinlu who was a tribal freedom fighter. However, there was this document by the government of India which actually honored many of the tribal women freedom fighters, and if you are able to write name of few of them and make it a box, imagine kind of impression, good impression that you would be leaving on the examiner. I mean, if like I have to uh, become a bit of casual, मतलब तुम मजबूर कर दोगे उसको 1-1.5 नंबर एक्स्ट्रा देने के लिए. Similarly, when they talk about role of women in during Gandhi, especially during Gandhian phase also you can say what was their role in, let's say, early Gandhian phase, what was their role in the CDM, what was their role in the Quit India and the post independence aspect. So again, you are breaking a certain bigger content, bigger aspect into micro shorter content to have examiners say that I know how the phenomenon took place. I know what you are asking, and I am giving you analysis of it. And moving, like I've talked about, the tribal wala question is like very probable. I mean, they did ask a couple of times till now. Here,
ट्राइबल
like
ट्राइबल का तो मैंने लास्ट ईयर एसआईपी में भी बोला था, और हमने प्रोबेबल हमने निकाला था। ट्राइबल का
yes,
हर साल एक क्वेश्चन आता है, एवरी ईयर
yes,
वन क्वेश्चन इज इन देयर, आइदर इन द प्रीलिम्स और इन द मेंस। एवरी ईयर मतलब विदाउट फेल वन क्वेश्चन विल कम इन ट्राइबल, आइदर इन जीएस1, जीएस2 और जीएस3। जीएस3 नहीं, जीएस1 और जीएस2 क्वेश्चन आना ही आना है। मतलब दिस इज अ फेवरेट वल्नरेबल ग्रुप। People prepare the reservation system. They have never asked the reservation system, the schedule caste, and they never asked that vulnerable group. They always focus on scheduled tribe, the PWD, women. These are the famous, these are the
exactly, exactly.
second vulnerable group UPSC considers, or the transgenders, है ना? Because the reasons may be different, but they do not ask the scheduled caste question.
And
Reservation.
another thing is that, like what I have seen that across my 5 6 years of mentorship experience, and whenever people write questions on either women or either tribal, they just randomly throw names. Randomly throwing names doesn't make sense. What you need to do is why, what, where, what was the contribution of it, what was the impact, and why such movement took place. So such movement took place majorly. So give you a point, took place majorly because firstly British actually interfered in the traditional land holding system of them, which is Khankutti system. Again, I'm using the prelims wala knowledge to generate a mains wala point, which I I don't think most of us would be doing it in the regular basis. So if examiner says like he have written Khankut as a first point, he would know that this guy has prepared, this guy is like well versed, he knows something. His orientation suddenly changes. Of course, he is a human in itself. He also has his biases. He also has its like likings, dislikes. And if he is able to see this point first, extra half mark, 1 mark छूट ही जाता है. And this half extra 1 mark would actually shift your marks from like, let's say 95 पे रुक रहे हो आप हर जगह पे, and you want to score 105 plus. So you need to have such smarter, shorter, quicker tweaks to your answers. I call them as smaller brilliances, smarter brilliances. That was a brilliance. And then in this example, you would like that Santhal rebellion by Sidhu and Kanu.
Again,
Next point,
I will reiterate the third law and fourth law. First, you have to write the argument, then you have to evaluate. है ना?
exactly,
You cannot replace
exactly.
similar thing is done in the essay also. You cannot write the value addition or the example first and ignore the arguments. Arguments are non-negotiable. Value addition can be done. They are the cherries on the cake, but the cake need to be built first.
And similarly, like tribal women is done, and then role of for foreigners was asked earlier in 2013, and like this is a very even this year also we included this in probables, and this was a very probable theme as well. I feel this year it can be asked, and again, like rather than writing random names, say what they contributed, say what they actually stood for. And even you can go a bit of far fetched also, like the contribution of Max Muller and Alexander Cunningham in unearthing the India's cultural past, which actually helped in the self-confidence of India and Indians towards the and which actually gave impetus to the national building. So such kind of far-fetched but excellent points can also be incorporated. Have yourself good backing, and let me tell you, all the core aspect which I'm talking about, they have scattered points. You need to develop scattered है, इसीलिए you need to have them consolidated at a single place, and consolidated not only with arguments but also with names. And this is what the prep stands for. When one says that they are stuck in mains, or they are not able to score well in mains because they are not able to consolidate the scattered content at a one place. Similarly, the role of press and education.
Signal lost.
Hello, hello.
हाँ.
Similarly, the role of press and education. So here also, like, elaborate on ideological and principle basis, and then add details. Don't just say that इसका ये publication है, इसका ये book है, इसका ये newspaper है. That is not the demand of the question. Here, what they are asking is how, like, press ensured that there was a national identity building, how press actually give impetus to, like, the political education, how there was this library movement which took place, how the publications uh, and the press actually helped in unearthing of the drain of wealth theory, how the press and the writings, even in the revolutionary phases like that of the philosophy of bomb, like writings of Bhagat Singh, actually tremendously influenced the youth at that time to contribute, participate, and make meaningful footprints in the national movement. So such kind of principles, ideological basis need to build. If you are, like, able to comprehend, I'm not only giving you details but also talking about what they actually stood for and what it actually meant for them.
Exactly. And
So
now how I will write it. For example, I know the facts. Uh, Now I know the argument key. I will build the threads, build the connections. For example, key Poverty and British Rule. Dadabhai Naroji wrote, and that book was very famous in Allahabad University. Now I'll start bluffing. Bluff. I will not do the specific bluff so that it can be caught. I'll do the general bluff. I'll do the bluff ki is area mein it became the very famous, and through the medium of press, वहां पे फिर they spread this idea. Now what I am doing, I am integrating argument and value addition in the same point. I'm connecting those points, and smartly I am bluffing also. समझ लो ना कि
yes,
इन्फॉर्मेशन
yes.
है, बस उसको प्रेजेंट करना आना चाहिए, वो वाली बात है.
So I guess that is, I have covered majority of the part and topic identification themes. Any of you like to contribute few of the probable areas that you can think I may have missed out upon, and you think like it is a very probable theme? You can just drop in a chat.
Or you can or we can have later some interactive session if anyone wants
Yes.
to interact, है ना? From our side, this is done.
Okay then. Any questions? Any doubts? I hope like this was really helpful, and this is like an innovative approach. Me and Naman trying to uh, build build into this mentorship initiative, whereby we are working together and ensuring that that a fullest of the complementarity is being delivered to you, and we are showcasing every aspect of it, from the note making to the topics to the discussions to the skeletal keys to the everything, and entire of this exercise is there to ensure that you are on the ready path to score 400 plus marks. I want every one of you to score 400 plus marks. Our basic premise, our basic uh, what you can say objective is to, like, increase the cutoff by few marks. So if, like, every one of you is scoring 400 plus marks, then definitely the cutoff would increase up. So I hope, like, you are catching up, and then if you have like any doubts, drop us a message. And thank you for joining in. Bye bye, Jai Hind, and good night. Naman, you can end the meeting for all. Yes, Tanvir, thank you for the compliment. Thank you, Anmol.
Uh, sorry guys, I was out. Any doubts you people are having? You all people can speak if anyone wants to speak.
Yes, Agnik, I think it would be helpful if you can prepare notes before 31st of October, since you will be able to follow the entire exercise hand in hand as the schedule moves forward. And if you are able to follow this like across the schedule, just trust me, you will be thorough with the GS part of mains. You won't be able to look anywhere. You will feel confident. You will have readily utilizable content, notes, details, answer writing, and PYQs prepared with you. That is what it takes.
and
That is
and you
what
can
makes.
and you can anytime show us your notes, the
Yes,
notes
of
you are
course.
preparing na, you can anytime drop us, we'll guide you if those notes are suited as per your preparation level or as per your preparation methods, है ना? Because my preparation method was different, I made these notes. Nikhil's was different, yours will be different, but in general, if any tweak needs to be done in those, we will tell you. You can share those things, है ना?
Yes, I think like Naman, you can end the session for us.
ठीक है, okay.
Yes.
If anybody is having any doubt, then I
Uh,
will
just drop
end.
us a message on the group. We'll answer.
Okay, हाँ, we have a group. Good. ठीक है, thank you guys. I'll end.